Okay, so recently I have had some requests on YouTube to show some of the things, show some of the bags that I use and show some of the loadouts that I use for them. This one's good because you can leave it in your car. One thing I've done to it is I've created a Kite X. This is actually Bolst X external attachment for my SE4 knife so that I can just roll it inside there. For a bug out bag, it's winter here. I'm going to assume that I'm wearing at least clothing that would keep me from immediately freezing outside, meaning I'm not running around in shorts expecting the bug out bag to save me. So, however, there's a chance that even though I may have some form of mountaineering shoes on and a jacket, I've still got to find a way to keep from freezing. So, inside of the bag, I have, it's a wool blanket I got from Afghanistan. They pretty much wear them around their shoulders. This is actually very, very warm even though it's so small and thin. And then I've got a space blanket. This is the Soul Space Blanket. I can't remember what their actual name of it was, but it's basically a tarp with reflective material to reflect heat back in. And I can build a shelter, a worst case scenario shelter out of this, and then use the blanket as well. I've got tons of backup batteries, a couple of different light sources, different headlamps. This is a Innova. This is actually nice because it can be obnoxious in the way that it blinks, which is good for getting attention when you want to get attention, or you can just turn the light on and use it as a headlamp, which is one of these little tomahawks. Unlock it. It's got a bright light and a red light. You can leave it on or change it to flashing. I have two little FRS drinks. There's pros and cons with having a little bit of caffeine. These only have 35 mg of caffeine, which is like a third of what one Mountain Dew has. The rest of this stuff, the rest of the energy source is vitamin B and cortisone, and you can just mix this with any water. And it's nice to have that extra energy if you've got to hike out a day, or if you're not eating, you've got something to at least keep you going. The other thing I've got in here are gloves and a wool neck gaiter. The majority of the heat that you lose is out of your head. So if all I've got is this little fold up lightweight wool thing, I can run it up on the top of my head. I can wear a hat with it, put it over my mouth and my neck. I keep that vast majority of heat from leaving my body by covering my head up. And then my hands. These are fly fishing gloves. They work really well. I use them when I'm skiing because I like to have the ability to feel my fingers and mess with stuff. And still I can cover them up with that. It's got fleece on the inside of it. It's actually really, really warm. As far as food's concerned, usually I keep like power bars and stuff, but I ate them. So I don't eat these very often. These are the energy bars. You can get it at any of your emergency essential store. They're cheap. There's 400 calories in these, so they're an energy source. I've got electric tape, $2 first aid kit. I added to it some Neosporin and BandAids. I don't have a full-blown improved first aid kit in here. I do have one of my other tactical bag that I take for law enforcement. But I've found that the thing that you need absolutely the most is a BandAid. It's always some little cut. Like I got a little cut on there on my thumb from fixing a rifle the other day. I twisted too hard and cut myself open. That fixes the issue. Keeps me from getting infections. I've got that Neosporin in there, and then BandAid. This is a soft survival kit that I've made that is a standalone survival kit by itself. I like how it folds out. I basically have Katadyn water tablets and a cravat. I've also got I put a little Smith goggle case, is what I put it in, but it's it is a survival mirror. I don't think my light's bright enough to actually show how that works. All you do is you aim it at the sun, you look through, you'll see these little holographic looking dots, and then you put those dots on whatever you want. Or you take a normal mirror, you aim it at the sun, you shine it on your hand. I can kind of see that right there. don't know if that's bright enough. You should be able to see the glare of my light up there shining on it. Anyway, you shine it on your hand, and then you flash it up on the airplane that you're trying to signal, or the person that you're trying to signal, or whatever it is. I keep it in here because it keeps from getting scratched. When it's scratched, it's not going to be as effective. Cravat is for shoulder slings. You can use them to wrap your head in the heat and put water on them, and it gives you evaporative cooling. You can put it over your face if it's really hot. Like I've spent my time in the Mojave Desert. I would wear these on my face, and then it allowed me to breathe air that at least had some moisture in it. There's a lot of different uses for that. Got a headlamp in this one too. Real simple little AAA battery headlamp. Turns on, cover it, turns red. It's always nice to have. Then my next pocket is fire starting stuff. Never underestimate the value of a big lighter. You can buy these really expensive ones. I've done some videos with different places where you have a really expensive lighter. We get up to 10,000 feet. Doesn't work. Big lighter, for the most part, it always works. I've got a couple of little magnifying glasses. When it's hot outside, well, when there's a lot of sunlight, you can use them to focus the light to burn. The wider the magnifying glass, the more light it collects. So the big ones are more effective than this little one, but this is good enough for me to stick in as a Plan B or Plan C fire starter in here. I've got a bunch of extra batteries in here. They are for my GPS device, which is right here. Hey man, if you can use a GPS versus a compass, it's always easier to use a GPS. It's best to learn how the compass works so you can do it analog, and therefore you understand the mechanical functions of the GPS so much better. But it's great to have a GPS. So I've got my GPS, and I've got multiple batteries for it. GPS just sits right here in my little Maxpedition pouch on the side. I get this pouch at Blade HQ, and I got this bag at Blade HQ. This is the Maxpedition Falcon. You're welcome to go look that up. Okay, here's my butane lighter. This is like $5. It's pretty cheap. Butane goes out there. It's refillable, so it's kind of nice. It's got some impact-resistant shell on it. Basically, you just take the butane and squirt it in the bottom there. It's got a little adjuster screw so that you can change how big the flame is and how fast you burn your butane. You can't see it, but I don't know. You can probably see that. You see the blue flame on it. If I put a dark background behind it, you probably see the blue flame. That's always good to have. But again, these aren't as reliable at altitude. So if you get one of these, make sure that you go to a high altitude to make sure that it works. Sometimes it just won't because of the way that they're built, or I don't know what reason. Okay, on here I've got, it's called a Strike Force. Again, you can get these at Blade HQ as well. So basically, I've used this one pretty good. The big, I think they call it ferrocerium rod with the striker. When I want to start a fire, don't be hitting it like this. What you want to do is you want to sit it down against the fire and pull it back. So this hand stays steady, this hand pulls back. And you want to get, it's best to gather your kindling while walking and finding old birds' nests, old man's beard growing on trees. There's different types of fungus and stuff that's dry. Don't pick it up off the ground, pull it off the trees. Pull it off the dead trees, and then add that to pine needles. You can add on to that. Then you want to add thicker little branches and then thicker larger branches. So you start the little stuff on fire and it catches everything else on fire as it grows. And you want to actually make a nest. Make a nest of, take a real nest, make a nest of dry grass, make a nest of whatever it is, so that when you do get that ember started, you can fold it and blow air through it, which gives it oxygen, blows the smoke out. Once that catches on fire, you set it in your other pre-prepared spot where you've got extra larger sticks, and then it catches the bigger sticks on fire, which catches the bigger sticks on fire, and eventually you've got a solid fire going. You can just feed it large logs all night long and you're good to go. On this, I've added one of these little cheap, you always see them in like the Boy Scout aisle of a Walmart type place, but this is magnesium. What I can do is I can scrape with the back of my knife big chunks of magnesium into my kindling. This has a striker rod on it, but I use the big one, and I strike that on there, and then the magnesium will help. And then the last thing that I've added are different types of medicine, just over-the-counter medicines, just simple stuff that make life a lot easier for you. I've got some of these nitro gloves. They're the long, cover the wrist ones. Caffeine pills. The reason I have these are, you're in a place and you need to get out soon, you need energy, you need to go for a few days, you've got the caffeine pills. And then I have, now there's basically a dual purpose thing for this. Obviously this helps you with allergies. If you have been stung by a bee and you have an allergic reaction to it, this helps you with allergies. If not, it will help you sleep. So I've got something that makes you be awake and something that makes you be asleep. And then I've got an anti-diarrheal. I've got in here, the last couple of things are toilet paper again, and Visine AC. I got the AC one again because it's a dual purpose. It covers allergies, and it also cleans your eyes. If you got something, a little rock flicked into your eye, the Visine AC back here I have a compass, because mechanical objects fail. Even though I've got GPS, I still have my compass. Now this is the analog way of doing something, and you need to learn how to do it, otherwise you're worthless with the compass in order to figure out where you're going. I've got some tripwire on a spool. This is the old Vietnam era tripwire. I have this for making snares, and I have so much of it because if you think you're going to catch something with a snare, don't be too over optimistic. You need to set a bunch of them up. You need to set them on game trails. You set them going to and from little paths of game trails to water. That's where you're most likely to catch it, or you stick them right in front of holes where something's going to come out of a hole. Last thing I've got is a sewing kit. You can fix clothes or you can make clothes. I've got lithium AA batteries for my GPS. They last a lot longer, so I threw those in there. And then AAA batteries, again lithium, for my headlamp over here as a backup. I like having one battery source for all things, but I'm not rich enough to just go sell all the stuff I've got and replace it, so I just put a couple more batteries in there. And again, I'd like I want to get a Goal Zero solar panel, but between now and when that happens, I have this little thing. It's just a gear power battery. It was 20 bucks. This will recharge my cell phone. Wherever I go, if I've got my cell phone, I've got a communication device, but I only have it for a day or two, a couple days more if I'm not using it, and if I shut it off before I use it. But if I need a backup, I've got that backup, so that just sits in right there. And that is the contents of my small EDC or everyday carry bag that I would just throw in the car. This, I took an egg carton, I put dryer lint in it, and then I took wax and melted it on the dryer lint and cut it into little pieces. These are little fire starters. They will burn and burn and burn. Last thing, before I forget it, right here in the back, this is set up to put a CamelBak in there. The best thing, the absolute best thing that you can have, I think, is one of these guys right here. This is an Ontario machete. It's thick and robust, so it's not technically a machete, it's actually a go-luck. Having said that, this thing, in the summertime or in the winter, even with frozen wood, will chop through wood like there's no tomorrow. It just rips through it like butter. I've got fire, communication, lights, batteries for all of that stuff, GPS, something to heat myself up with, a wool blanket, a space blanket to help create a shelter with, a water device, that big CamelBak, and my big go-lock shaped Ontario machete. And that's what I've got in my EDC bag.